Hello and welcome to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about a new movie every week. This week on the show, we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Star-Lord.
Who?
Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Forget it.
We arrested these five on Xandar. Check out the rap sheets.
Drax, aka the Destroyer. Since his wife and family were killed, he's been on a rampage across the galaxy in his search for vengeance. Gamora, soldier, assassin, wanted on over a dozen counts of murder. Rocket, wanted on over 50 charges of vehicular theft and escape from lockup.
What the hell?
Groot, has been traveling recently as Rocket's personal houseplant / muscle.
Peter Jason Quill. He's also known as Star-Lord.
Who calls him that?
Himself, mostly. He's wanted largely on charges of minor assault, public intoxication, and fraud.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
As always, I'm your host, Corbin's a vocal. I think I'm maybe the Rocket Raccoon and Kody, you're the Groot in this situation. But of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Kody Webb. What do you think? I mean, you kind of look like Groot.
I am Groot. Yeah, I think I can do it.
You and Vin Diesel have a lot in common too.
Yeah, it's true. Me and Vin go way back. Big fans of Fast Five, I think both of us. But yeah, I'll take Groot. You know, he's probably the more likable one in the two, so that makes sense too. But yeah, we're back for a great episode of KHAP. I mean, it does not get much better than a Kody pick, if I say so myself. But yeah, how you doing on this great day, man?
You know, I'm doing well. We're just coming off fresh, the top 50, the rank of our 50 movies, and we're going into a great one right off the bat. Guardians of the Galaxy, one of your all-time favorites, definitely a favorite in the MCU for both of us, I would say. And I'm excited. I'm curious though, why do you want to talk Guardians?
Why?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, at this point, what are we in, like season 10 of the show? I've really watched all my favorite movies. So I was like, you know what? We haven't done like a comic book movie for a while, which is obviously a big thing for me. And I had it down between a couple of my faves. This is probably my favorite MCU standalone project. And then I was debating between that and X-Men Days of Future Past, which is just another great film. But wanted to talk about this one because I haven't revisited it for a while. Yeah, it's probably just one of the MCU movies that I've seen the most. I feel like I always say that when I pick a movie, but we're going to keep that running. I think I saw it like 3 times in theaters when it came out. I took like my mom's side of the family, I took my dad's side of the family, then I took my friends. So it's kind of like, oh, this was my movie in theaters, one of those things. And yeah, we'll get into it a lot more, but it really is just, I think, a Marvel classic.
I was looking here. I was trying to figure out what the last comic book movie we did. And I think technically it was our Morbius episode, which is obviously an all-time classic if you haven't heard that. But before that, in a more extended conversation, we talked about the Batman all the way back in March. So it's been a minute.
Was that even season 3 or was that season 2?
It was season three, but
Okay,
early season 3.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to about like one a season. We had a couple Spider-Man episodes, I think season 2, and then a Spider-Man season 1 too. So yeah, we need to get more comic booky, I think, because that's one of my niche things, and I can talk about that for hours. So yeah,
I'm excited for this conversation. So let's go ahead and continue on with our initial thoughts.
Good morning, Vietnam!
let's do it. I want to hear yours first.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready. You mentioned that you hadn't seen this in a while, and I feel like I haven't seen this movie in forever. Like, I haven't done a real MCU rewatch in probably, I guess, like 4 years, maybe 2 or 3, but it has been a while. And there's definitely a lot about this movie that I didn't remember, or, it just hadn't, I even thought about in a long time. When I think about when this movie came out in 2014, it starts to make me feel really old, honestly, that this was like 8 years ago that this came out, that, this has been going on for that long. This one stuck out to me as a favorite when it came out for me, and it has a huge impact on the future of the MCU. When I watched this, that was something that really surprised me, is like how much rode on this particular movie, when especially it was a movie with a cast of characters that people really had no idea who they were, and the people who did know who they were didn't really like them that much. So it was kind of like this weird situation of like, it was a big bet. They said, hey, James Gunn, why don't you explain exactly what the Infinity Stones are to all of our characters and like be this like first major moment in like opening the world to like greater space travel and what really the next couple movies we're going to rely on is whether or not Guardians worked.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty crazy.
No, you're taking the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the crazy thing about this movie is it really sets the stage for, the entire Infinity Saga, which is a pretty ballsy setup to put in for a movie, like you said, as well, where nobody's ever heard of the characters. I mean, Marvel, when they started up, they were saying that Iron Man was this B tier character and, oh, the movies made him cool. Well, who the hell is Rocket the Raccoon in the
If that's B tier, this is.
Yeah. I mean, what are we going to? Z, W, somewhere down there. Hopefully not Z, because that's a lame letter. But yeah, I think this movie had a lot of like studio setup to do, but at the same time, I think it's like one of the best scripts in the MCU for a standalone project. Just like the nonstop action, it's so much fun. It has so much heart. And then yeah, I mean, James Gunn bringing in solid cast and backing it with an insane soundtrack. I mean, he basically, like, you could say this for other sci-fi movies that I like as well, but he auditioned to make a Star Wars movie through the MCU, and I think he did it pretty successfully. But yeah, there's so much to talk about. One thing that I did just notice for the first time on this watch, and I think it's because I've never watched it on my TV that I've had for a couple of years, but like the aspect ratio actually keep changing.
Well, I actually, this is literally the next thing I was going to say, Kody.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for this. You watch this on.
It's like shot in IMAX, right?
Yeah, you watch this on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus, interestingly enough, has this. I think you can decide what you do, but they have the IMAX version on there, which is pretty cool. Being able to see on your TV and still kind of getting that full IMAX experience. Obviously not the full IMAX experience, but the wider aspect ratio at different points. I think it can be a little bit distracting when it jumps back and forth a lot.
I think it's very distracting, and like you said, it's the first time I noticed, I guess, because on Disney Plus, I have this on like DVD, which is so outdated to even say. But I was like, hey, it's on Disney Plus. I mean, I might as well watch it on there. But maybe I should have, stuck with the DVD so it wasn't so distracting, switching back and forth. But that honestly, that's like one of the only major flaws I have with it. That's just like, oh, Disney Plus's viewing experience. So I don't even know if that really counts. Now, I'm super high in this film, obviously. James Gunn, I think legit, he is one of my favorite directors working today, which is kind of crazy because he hasn't made that much in the past like 10, 20 years. But the couple things that he's pumped out, like comic book wise, this and the Suicide Squad, are both just like perfect comic book interpretations. Feels like just like coming straight off the pages, which I love. I'm going to talk a bunch more about like in the good categories we move on, but that's pretty much the gist of it. Obviously, I'm going to be pretty high in this film.
Yeah, understandably so. Let's move into roll credits.
Roll credits.
I think we should just maybe start with the opening of the film, which I think is very interesting. This begins with essentially what is like a cold open scene of his mom dying, kind of in front of him, reaching out, hold my hand. She gives him the present, and then she passes away, and then he leaves the hospital and is abducted by the Ravengers. And then we get the Marvel fanfare directly after that, which I think is an interesting choice. Do you think that's an effective way to open the movie, Kody?
Yeah, the opening, it is interesting because, I mean, going into it the first time everyone saw it as well, it's like, oh, you see the trailer, it's got this 80s music, like it's going to be a fun time. And then, boom, the opening scene is, oh, his mother is literally on her deathbed from cancer. And he's a tiny little kid, like he's not even able to process this. So I think it's an interesting choice. I think maybe it is the right choice just because it brings in the heart. This movie has unbelievable amount of heart, I think, for just a stupid like sci-fi fun movie. And then like leading into the next scene, I think it's kind of like a double opening scene because the next scene is, kind of a cool thing to set up Star-Lord. And then obviously it just turns into him singing and, kicking rats around, which is obviously my favorite part.
And of course, that bit is brought back in Endgame.
Yeah.
Do you think them making fun of it takes away from the scene, or do you still appreciate it?
I do a little bit. I mean, whenever if you go back into like time in a movie to a specific scene and then, just clock a dude for laughs. I think it does change it a little bit just from like a nerd standpoint. It's like, oh, well, that didn't really happen anymore or whatever. But I mean, the opening, like the introduction to actual Star-Lord as human, I think it's so much fun and it's perfect.
Fantastic. This movie does character introductions pretty well.
Yeah. And just like cool character moments and like a cool visual shot. Like that's really all I need. That's all you can ask for. Just like that opening of like him on his device trying to figure out where this thing's at. Like that visually is interesting enough to me. And then obviously you get him, using the rat as a microphone and just being an idiot. So it really does just introduce him in the perfect way, I think.
Yeah, I think the mask that he wears as Star-Lord is extremely cool. I think it's a little disappointing when the mask comes off and it's just like Chris Pratt underneath. But the mask itself is very cool. Some other stuff right after the Marvel fanfare, we get a James Gunn film, making this very clear. This is a James Gunn thing. This is very heavily influenced. We kind of talked about Captain Marvel last week, whereas a movie very much influenced by the studio. And this one feels like James Gunn had a significant amount more creative control on this movie than some of the other Marvel films. It is very reminiscent of his previous work, and like you said, he does a great job of kind of adapting things and having his influence. In the credits, as they kind of end, you get Chris Pratt, you get Zoe Saldana, you get everybody. You get Benicio del Toro as the Collector, which I think is a cool note. It's one of those special guest appearances from Benicio. I know you don't always love some of his character work, i.e. The Last Jedi, but I think this is a fun Benicio performance. Also in that opening scene, you get your man. You haven't even said it yet. Kody, go ahead. What's his name?
The boy, Jamin Hansu, superstar in this movie. All of his scenes, I think he's only in this like 3 or 4 scenes, but I love every single one. And they brought him back for the What If series, I believe. So shout out Jamin putting that voice work in, but I still want to see him come back. But to touch on Benicio real quick as well, yeah. I think on record I've said that's the worst performance of all time in Last Jedi. But weirdly enough, he plays like a kind of like a similar character.
I was just saying it's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but I think he's good in this. So shout out Benicio. You are an okay actor, I think, but yeah, Ryan Johnson, I don't think he knows what he's doing, I guess. Don't give Ryan Johnson Guardian of the Galaxy 3. That's all I'm saying. But I guess 4 since it's already coming out. But
better Del Toro, Guillermo or Benicio?
I mean, I gotta go Guillermo. I mean, Guillermo was never, the worst actor of all time in a movie, so it's pretty easy to beat that. True. Also, shout out Pinocchio.
Shout out Pinocchio. It's out. You can watch it now.
Is it out in theaters?
Well, limited release in theaters, but I think it is out on Netflix today. Maybe.
Really? Oh, I might have to watch that tonight. Gotta represent Del Toro. What did I call him in that episode?
Yeah, came out the 9th, so it's out there.
I think I said somebody else directed it, didn't I?
You did say George Miller directed it.
George Miller, yeah.
Which is unfortunate. One of the other really cool things about that opening scene is how real the set feels. Like in a ton of Marvel movies, especially the more recent ones, and also in like the Star Wars films, it's just like it's all shot on blue screen, right? And it doesn't feel like real dirt underneath them. It doesn't feel like there's actual stuff in the foreground. And while it's very clearly like a backdrop, it feels like they built something, and he's jumping around the rocks. He's interacting with stuff. Like it just feels very real and tangible, which I really appreciate. It kind of veers away from that in some of the later scenes, but it's cool that it opens with that. And of course, is obviously very reminiscent of Indiana Jones. It's kind of setting him up very early on. This is kind of the MacGuffin of that movie, which is nice. Oh, then moving on to the ending, Kody, obviously we get Guardians Will Return. That's kind of a Marvel staple across the various movies when they're going to come back. You've got your first post-credit scene or your mid-credit scene with Groot dancing and Drax kind of trying to see him dance. I don't know why Groot wants to hide his dance moves, but he does. And then, of course, the Howard the Duck post-credit scene, which I'm curious to get your thoughts on.
Yeah, you might be in a different camp than me on this, but I really like the Howard the Duck scene. I mean, it adds absolutely nothing to the larger universe, but I feel like this movie did all the heavy work already of, having Thanos in it just for no reason and, setting up the Infinity Stones. So you might as well just have like a super fun moment at the end where it's just a shout out to the creator, basically, because I mean, sure, Howard the Duck does come back in Endgame if you can spot him, but I wouldn't call him like a titular character going forward. They didn't throw Thanos in the end credit scene, which is kind of surprising because they do it for every other movie. But yeah, I do like it. I think it's stupid. Do you disagree?
Well, what's interesting is because like I feel like every post credit scene up into this point was pretty significant. This was the first one that was kind of like, hey, we're not really gonna lead into anything. Now it feels like kind of all the post credit scenes are like that. Is like, is this ever gonna lead into anything? But the movie itself gives more to the future of the MCU than anything else before it. So it's like you can kind of let it go because you don't need the post credit scene because you've already given us all this Infinity Stone information. Thanos is literally in this movie as a character. You get Thanos' children. Like there's so much stuff in it that I'm okay with it. I do vividly remember, like, I don't remember seeing this movie in theaters very well, but I do remember the Howard the Duck moment and then like coming out of the theater and being like, who the fuck is Howard the Duck? Like, what is happening? I gotta investigate. Which I get, it's cool. It is like you said, it's paying tribute to kind of the comic book, which is something that James Gunn is an appreciator of the original work.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why nowadays, for like MCU movies, even I always look up if the post credit scenes are relevant. So I don't want to sit there for 15 minutes just for Howard the Duck to show up and say nothing relevant. So I understand that. But yeah, I mean, in to your response to like all the MCU post credit scenes being meaningful, I don't know if that was really true. I mean, in Thor 2, I don't know if I swear Thor 2 came out before this movie. Chile just, Thor
I
making
believe
out
it
with
was
Natalie.
2013.
When this movie
Yeah,
came out, like
2014. Yeah.
There you go. So Thor started that trend, I guess, because he's just making out with Natalie Portman at the end of that movie. So
You tell me that
maybe
isn't important.
I mean, it is for Thor, I guess, but not really for any of us.
It wasn't even
But
Natalie Portman. It was his wife.
his wife, I know. I was gonna do that, but supposedly Natalie Portman. But as well, one thing I forgot to mention about roll credits, they do say that the name of this movie. I believe they only say it. No, they do say it twice, but it is at the very end. And I really like, actually, I don't know if this happens that often where like the antagonist is the one who says the name of the movie. He says it even like mocking them, being like, "These are your guardians of the galaxy. Like you couldn't do any better." And then of course it's met by Star-Lord doing his dance off, and then eventually they get the stone. And he said, "Oh, you said it yourself, bitch. We're like guardians of the galaxy." So even incorporating it into like maybe the cheesiest line in the movie, I think it's just perfect from James Gunn and perfect writing again. But yeah, I think that's one of the better like actual roll credits moments in a movie that we've done.
How do you feel about referring to this movie as Volume 1, or do you just think it should be Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, you can stamp that on with the sequels now. It's kind of like the Star Wars argument where, everybody calls episode 4, A New Hope now, but I mean, 1977, it was just Star Wars. So it goes either way. If you just say Guardians of the Galaxy, I think people will generally think of this movie anyways. So that is kind of dumb, though, adding a subtitle.
All right, let's move on to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get on with the good first. Kody, obviously you love this movie, so tell us what's good about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot great in this movie. The first thing I wanted to shout out was the visual style. I didn't look up who did the Cine on this, but it's pretty good stuff. I think just a couple specific scenes I wanted to quickly shout out. We did talk about in the opening, the first appearance of the Ravagers. Just that like alien abduction kind of vibe to it, I think is really cool. Camera work, the mist, in the dark is a really cool shot. And then another specific shot is when Drax, tells everybody where they're at. It's sort of his shot of, he's got his knives out and the whole army's coming out sort of with his back to it. I think that's fucking sick as well. So shout out those couple ones. But the main thing I wanted to talk about, well, the script I already mentioned, but also the cast. I think it's very, very good. And I've talked about I think at Catch Me If You Can, I actually recent episode I was like, oh, there's a lot of smaller scenes, but every single one of those like smaller characters is really, really good. And I think it's the same here. I already mentioned Jamin Hansu. He's in like 2 scenes. John C. Riley's a lot of fun. He's in like 3 scenes. I think comedically, maybe John C. Riley has the funniest lines. Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, Michael Rooker, and then I mean the main cast of just unbelievable spot ons. I think Dave Bautista, obviously, Bradley Cooper's Rocky Raccoon. You can never change that in a million years. Even Vin Diesel as Groot. I would have never thought I wanted Vin Diesel on the MCU, but voice work. Going back to the Iron Giant, I feel like he's low key one of his strengths. So even taking like these B-list actors, John C. Riley the same, and putting them in fun roles, I think it's an impressive feat, and it's really not easy to do. I mean, literally throw Vin Diesel in any other MCU movie, and you're probably going to get criticized for it, but somehow it works here.
The first note at the top of my page is just characters in all caps because they're so good. Literally everyone, like you said, is interesting and unique and well fleshed out. Got to give shouts to Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan as the sisters. Karen Gillan, Doctor Who, unite, rise up, go, let's go. Shout out to Lee Pace as well for that.
I didn't know you watched that show.
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, at one point. Lee Pace as Ronan, while the character itself is not great, I still think that's fun casting. And then Glenn Close coming in as Nova Prime, also fun as well. So yeah, there's just so many cool little side characters, and it's because James Gunn is great at finding those weird comic book, whether it's someone who appears in one issue or someone that's prominent that he can bring in a certain way. He's just really good at kind of discovering what the perfect assortment of characters is, and he's very good at building a cast in a way that all interacts and can kind of joke off each other in a really effective way. Particularly Bradley Cooper as Rocket is, like you said, irreplaceable. The best part of the movie for me, 100% hands down. Even on top of that, Yondu and his arrow, like that's probably one of the sickest weapons, and just like the character design on him as a whole is really interesting. Obviously, he's still doing like his country accent that we know from The Walking Dead, which is kind of funny, but he's like space country, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Michael Rooker was another name on that list. I skipped over for some reason. But yeah, Yondu's an interesting one just because it's literally just Michael Rooker. Like,
right.
He's playing himself, but he's a blue alien. So it's kind of like you got to pick one, but it kind of works. He's not, I don't think, the best. He does have a bigger part in Volume 2 as well, which I don't even know if I like. And in the Christmas special, there's kind of like a recon as well, which maybe I'll get to later. Yeah, I don't know if he's the best out of all we mentioned. And he didn't even talk. I was definitely talking about my boy Dave Bautista. I mean, this is him coming off of.
I was just waiting for you, Kody.
I mean, my boy Dave, he really has done nothing before this. His main acting credits are what, like Blade Runner, this. What else? One other thing I can't even think off the top of my head, but I mean, he doesn't act much. So to come into this, there were a lot of question marks for sure. I mean, it's basically just like saying, oh, throwing John Cena in this role or somebody similar.
Not even John Cena, because like he's not as popular.
Right. I mean, is Dave Bautista a popular wrestler? I don't.
I couldn't tell you exactly. I would imagine, since we don't know.
If you're in the wrestling community, come on the show because we have no insight on that part of the world. But
Junior can help.
Junior probably could help. That makes sense. One other thing I wanted to shout out again. The script is immaculate. I forgot a couple little things. There's a few just like build up scenes of the team that I think are really good, and it was co-written by James Gunn, and he basically wrote all their lines in the Avengers movies as well, which I think is pretty funny. The reasons were like, these people, just do the work for us. The specific scene where they're talking about, does Star-Lord have a plan, or is he just bullshitting Yondu? It's like, how much plan do you have? And he says like 12% or something stupid. And I think that just specific scene writing where it goes from a super comedic thing where he does like the fake laugh, and then that just leads into like one of the deeper scenes in the movie where they realize, oh, we're probably gonna die, and then they're like, well, at least we're dying around friends. And he literally, what he calls them losers. They literally are all losers because they have nothing really left in their life, and it really just like brings in the gravity of the situation while like being extremely funny as well. I think it's hard to do. A lot of good in this movie.
Kody, are you familiar with the like a save the cat moment in a script?
I don't think I've heard that phrase before, actually. Enlighten me.
Yeah, so this is the idea is when you introduce a character in your story, particularly your main character, you need them to be likable for some reason, or you need a reason to root for them, or something that why do you care about
A
this
redeeming quality.
redeeming quality, right? And obviously with Star-Lord, he, to a certain degree, maybe you could think him to be a bit of a scummy guy, or, just kind of a player. Like there's reasons you might not like him. He's kind of a Han Solo, Indiana Jones-esque figure. But a save the cat moment is essentially when a character would save a cat from harm's way. And because of that, because they saved this helpless little animal, you then like them. And something very interesting in the very first scene of this movie, not only does his mom die, but she says to him, why are you fighting these kids? And it was because they killed a frog. So that was, kind of his save the cat moment very early on in the script. Is even as a little kid, he's fighting, he's standing up for the little guy, standing up for this poor little frog that's getting killed by these other kids at his school, which I just think is a really cool early moment of character development you can have for this kid who's like going to stand up and literally fight for an animal that's getting, murdered by other boys.
I like that a lot. So does that mean that Chris Pratt's an animal activist or no?
Yeah, that is exactly what it means.
Okay, cool. Thought we established that. Yeah, not too much Chris Pratt slander yet on the pod.
Well, we haven't gotten to the bad and the ugly, Kody. But why don't we go ahead and get over to it? The bad. Do you know what this movie taught me about, Kody?
What did talk about?
Taught me who Jackson Pollock was.
That's a great line.
You're familiar with what I'm referencing. I'll just play it here.
And Quill, your ship is filthy.
Oh, she has no idea. If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
You got issues, Quill.
Yeah. So I just kind of, I don't know. I was 14, so it's not like I was too young or it was too shocking. But when you put that joke together, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Oh yeah. At the time, I mean, that joke went right over my head. I was like, Jackson Pollock, that's some sort of artist, but I don't really understand. But yeah, now 10 years later, it's even funnier. Come on.
What do you got for bad? I got some more stuff, but we can bounce back and forth.
Yeah, bad. I have one main thing, and it's the villain. I mean, MCU, they're known pretty much really for, the villain being in the back burner. And this is the prime example of it. I think it's just underfleshed. Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace. If I'm being completely honest, I don't even know what Lee Pace looks like in real life. In this movie, he looks okay. I think could be a little bit better as well. But just being like a Kree fanatic who, had just one goal, kind of just one-dimensional, not a big fan really, not fleshed out at all. And his name is also just so stupid. Ronan the Accuser? Is he like some sort of public defender or, he's a defense attorney? I don't really know. He's in the courts somehow, I guess. But he's left that life behind, and now he's just accusing everyone on the planet of Xandar of, I don't even know, being Xandarian, so they deserve to die. Like his intentions, it's just like explained for 2 seconds of, oh, these people hate each other. And then you're like, okay, I just have to accept he wants to kill everybody. But it's fine and everything, and it makes for, good scenes at the end where they just keep shooting him with these big explosives and nothing happens, which I think is funny. But yeah, that would probably be my one gripe with the movie.
I absolutely agree. It's an incredibly weak villain. It's the common problem with just about every MCU movie is that they don't have a very good, well-developed villain. I think the character intro for Ronan the Accuser is extremely sick. He like rises out of the black bubble, which kind of reminds me of some stuff we saw in Dune last year, probably in some ways inspired by the writings of that book. But he kind of rises out of that black mud. He gets the paint all over his face and arms. He wears the headpiece. Just a really cool introduction. He's got the cool weapon. And then again, like when he gets the Power Stone, like there's cool stuff. It's just, there's no substance. He's basically just like a genocidal maniac, but not even in an interesting way, like with Thanos that we get later. But he's basically just an early, he just hates Xandarians and, I guess a lot of people.
Yeah. He's basically just a lapdog Thanos as well. So it's kind of like, oh, we can just skip this part and go to the actual big. But yeah, I think what you said is actually really interesting in that, like, I think this movie, it got a lot from other movies as well. I mentioned Star Wars, obviously. There's some Star Trek in here, Starship Troopers, Aliens. I think the list goes on and on, even Blade Runner a little bit. But yeah, I think James Gunn took a lot from a bunch of other, even like Giant. He kind of like took the best stuff from a lot of weird sci-fi movies, brought it together. But yeah, I think he did kind of miss the mark on the villain. But in the end, I mean, there's so many people to set up in this movie. I mean, you have the five Guardians. You got Michael Rooker and the Ravagers. You know, you have some subplots and crap, obviously, but that's kind of the one where maybe they should have spent like I think one or two more scenes, maybe with like him and Nebula, you know, just yelling at each other or something. That maybe would add a little bit more.
Do you think people care? Like, do they really go to see these movies for the villains? No.
Well, if they're good, I think they do care. I think the best villains maybe have the most impact. I mean, all we talk about in the MCU is Infinity War, Infinity War, Infinity War, which I mean rightfully so. But I mean, it's just it depends on what the character is. If people know the character, like if you do the Joker wrong, oh, you're gonna get massive slack. But if you do Ronan the Accuser wrong, everyone's like, oh, it was a great movie. Like the Guardians were sick. I like
Fair.
the villain was kind of a dick, but you know, forgettable sometimes good in sort of standalone, you know, introductions, I think. Just because other than Loki, either like the villain's really good and you introduce the long-term villain in the first movie, or it's a throwaway villain, which I'd rather have Loki in the first movie, but sometimes you got to pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah, I just bring it up because I guess like these are stories about heroes and they're stories about good guys. And
Right.
honestly, you spend too much time with the villain and you kind of begin to get away from that. These movies are also made for wide audiences, so children can see them. This was rated PG-13, but let's be honest, like plenty of young kids saw this. So like you don't need to like spend too much time with why the genocidal maniac like hates people and wants to commit heinous murder across the galaxy. But I think I agree with you. Like forgettable is good sometimes because honestly, if you create a villain that's too compelling and too interesting, people are just gonna and you have them die or lose. People just want them to come back and return and they want to see them again, which when that's not the story that you're trying to tell over a course of 10 movies, that's a problem. Right.
I guess, but I mean, I would always want a villain who's good and like, oh, I want to see them again. I think that's something the MCU is definitely missing. I mean, look at even their most recent example of Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's probably about the same screen time between Christian Bale and Ronan in this movie, and like I said, it's just about expectations. Like, oh, if you're gonna cast Christian Bale, he better be, a menacing, scary ass dude who's in the movie. It's kind of just expectations. But yeah, I get what you're saying. For this movie, I think it does work having the villain take the backseat. But in like most other projects, I would disagree with you. I want the villain to be very compelling because I think that is sometimes like if they think they're the protagonist, that is sometimes even more interesting than like the protagonist take on it.
I agree that in most instances, I want the villain to be compelling. I guess I'm just maybe providing arguments for like why it's never been a focus in the MCU or why they feel the need to not care about it that much. My final question before we go on to ugly, do you think is Groot overpowered? Like, is he kind of just unfair?
I mean, in this movie, I think he definitely is. There's a lot of OP people in this movie, Ronan especially too, but I think that's kind of why they killed off Groot at the end, turned him into a baby. It's kind of like, oh, these people, they have drags as well. Like they're never going to run into a situation where they're out-muscled. I mean, even the scene at the end where he grabs the 10 guys by his arm and just swinging them back and forth and then turns around with a massive grin on his face, which may be the cutest thing ever. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, he's shredding these guys like they're like thumbtacks out here. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was smart that they killed him? Or
yeah, I mean, I think they needed to. We're gonna talk Christmas special at the end of this, and
yeah,
maybe I'm not a huge fan of the direction they've taken with Groot, with the Roblox Groot, but yeah, I think they needed to do it. It's kind of a Hulk situation, except the Hulk at least has the handicap of being like a rageful monster, where it's like, well, Groot maybe isn't the sharpest, tool in the shed. He's still aware of what he's doing, and he can like take orders and do what you need him to do and just like fight anybody. Like he's unbeatable. And even if he dies, he just gets fucking resurrected as a tiny little version of himself or his child or whatever the fuck.
That's true. He's unkillable almost. Looking back at this movie as well, it's kind of like I miss this Groot in the MCU. Like this is prime Groot.
I mean, it's like
we're never going to see him again.
Yeah, we're never going to get it.
It is like Groot's son, I think, almost.
That's what James Gunn has said, yeah.
Yeah, which kind of sucks because this is the best version of Groot, I think. Yeah, he is OP, so I understand why they took him out.
Go to the ugly. Kody, do you want to get things started?
I will get things started here. I have a couple. The first one, just talking about the Collector in general, I think he's a bit problematic. I mean, obviously, the whole idea of, capturing people and, just putting them up for,
viewing.
Pleasure of viewing, sure.
He's like a zookeeper. He's like a twisted zookeeper.
Yeah, it's like a museum/zookeeping thing he's got going on. Probably not morally the best thing. So, I mean, they could have, said that walking in here, being like, dude, this is pretty messed up. Like, we should release all these people. But that's not really touched on. And of course, it's also the concept of slavery.
Yeah, he's got a slave girl.
Yeah, the girl literally says, I will no longer be your slave. Then smacks the Infinity Stone. Which, by the way, I mean, when she's like yelling that shit, you think Rocket or Peter Quill would be like, all right, this chick's gonna mess everything up. And just like, tase her or something, take her out. But
maybe they just wanted to see what was gonna happen.
Well, bad move. But yeah, to start off, I mean, I would say we probably shouldn't view, the Collector as any sort of, decent human being based off, what his profession is. But I'd say that's pretty ugly.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe talking about things outside the movie. Obviously, there's the James Gunn controversy, which I don't know. It's kind of a really interesting series of events, right?
It's so tweets, right?
Yeah. So like many people, when people don't like you, they'll dig into your past and try and uncover things. And James Gunn, I think, specifically pissed off some alt-right, like conservative people on Twitter. They went through his Twitter and they did find him making some very inappropriate, ill-timed jokes about like pedophilia and things that obviously are not like okay and not really that funny.
Very outdated and just like crude jokes, I think, looking back on it. But yeah.
Right. And then obviously he was removed from Guardians Volume 2. He was fired by Disney, which is what caused him, what then caused him to get hired by DC. And kind of in hindsight, as you think about it, the domino effect of him now being the CEO of DC Films.
True.
Because of those tweets.
Work out for him. Which kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'll mention this later, but I think the sequel to this film is far less superior. I think it's very, very bad. But I mean, just because of those tweets, like Loki, he's now the head of DC. It's kind of scummy. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, listen, everybody's said things in their past that I don't know. It was a bad thing.
It is. I don't know like how old he was. Like if he was like 10.
I mean, he was an adult. He's an older guy. Like he was an adult when Twitter was invented.
Yeah, I think
he was older than we are now.
Right. Well, the thing is, as well, it was so long ago, and you can't do anything going back in the past. So it's hard to be like punish him for that. But at the same time, it's like it's not great. Anywho, my other one ugly I do want to bring up because it comes up in other movies strangely. I feel like a lot, but it's just like the very calm and it's very relaxed. Just a destruction of a city from an incoming massive ship. They do it here. The other one where it's even worse is Star Trek Into Darkness, where they just destroy the entirety of San Francisco with one ship. I think it's just unnecessary. It just seems like super dark, especially in a movie like this where supposedly they evacuate the city, but you still see all these people, and then you just dump like the biggest spaceship possible on the entire thing, and literally every single skyscraper and building comes down. It's just not really something I want to view. It seems like pretty, brutal destruction. And yeah, I don't like it. I think that's super ugly, but that's just my take.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to watch in a movie that's like otherwise pretty upbeat and colorful and positive. It kind of sticks out.
It's not needed at all, I don't think.
But yeah, I mean, like, and the Ronan's people like literally like kamikazing themselves prior to that too, which is a whole nother. Yeah, it's an intense scene. John C. Reilly's wife and kid almost just get taken out, but luckily Rocket saves the day. The last ugly thing, we got to talk Chris Pratt. Kody, what's your honest thoughts on Chris Pratt. What do you feel about him?
Chris Pratt or Chris Pratt?
Chris Pratt.
I don't know. I feel like he's kind of those in-betweener guys where he's always just trying to make everybody happy. And then he just always says the dumbest stuff, though. And then he tries to go back on it. I don't know. I never go too much into looking into, everybody's political views. But from what I've seen, Chris Pratt doesn't seem the smartest guy. But yeah, what do you think?
He's such an interesting person to look at the arc of his career and how he was like almost this like lovable, dumb sweetheart on Parks and Rec. And like almost this casting is kind of what started his downfall into a certain, once he got hot, people wanted to see him fail. I think Chris Pratt, I don't know him obviously, but I think at his heart, he is a good person. And like, I don't think he is a terrible person. There is a lot of things that he's done, both career-wise and in his personal life, that I think I disagree with, and I think are poor like decisions and are questionable. There's just, like he's like one of those people that like makes movies to just like kind of piss people off. Like, why are you Mario, Chris Pratt? Why are you doing this? And then obviously he's in Jurassic World and like this like douchey kind of sexist character that weirdly falls in love with Bryce Dallas Howard. Right? Yeah, it's Bryce Dallas Howard.
That character's like connection to Bryce Dallas Howard is one of the worst things I've ever seen. But yeah, I feel like you're right. His filmography has been kind of really weird after this.
He's in like the Terminal List on Amazon, where he's some weird agent, soldier, something.
Oh, is that what that's called? The Terminal List? It's like an alien futuristic movie, right? Or maybe you're talking about something else.
Tomorrow War is what you're thinking of. Terminal List is a TV show that he's in that is like also, again, it's like him as an agent or a spy or some shit. He wears a black hat and in a bulletproof vest. So.
He's getting typecast. But yeah, I mean, coming from Parks and Rec too, I feel like at the release of this movie, everyone's like, oh, Chris Pratt's so lovable. Like he's the next big movie action star. And then, I mean, the Jurassic World casting helps that too. He was rumored to be the next Indiana Jones for forever.
He's great in Her in like a dramatic film. Like that's right before this comes out. Things are really looking up.
He's great in Moneyball too.
He's good in Moneyball too. Passengers is a big downfall for him and Jennifer Lawrence. They both took a hit from that. His character in that is also kind of despicable and gross when you think about it.
That movie's got a lot of ugly, I think. But to be in like such a big budget sci-fi with J-Law and for it to be so bad and bomb so much, I think. I mean, that's one of the biggest faults of his career. And then, I mean, coming to modern day with Mario, I'm actually excited for that movie. I don't know the last time I could say that about an animated movie. Maybe Pinocchio, to be fair. But that movie actually looks good. I don't hate his voice just because Mario, you want the iconic like Yahoo, it's a me Mario kind of thing. But at the same time, like in the cartoon and stuff, like he's just an Italian plumber. Like you don't want it over the top. Like you want him to be like Yahoo and shit like that. But yeah, Chris Pratt, it's a
fine line between racism and you have this Nintendo, which obviously like a Japanese company making this like very stereotypical Italian plumber character. And then I don't know, like everybody else is well cast in that movie except for Chris Pratt.
I was just gonna say that.
And all doing like voices that make sense.
Yeah. Charlie Day is Luigi's awesome. Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach is freaking dope. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, nailed it. Jack Black as Bowser is sick. I mean, dude, that is such a good cast. And then to have like, Chris Pratt as Mario, it doesn't really make sense, but I'm still excited for that movie somehow, even though, that casting is weird.
Well, and the thing is like, it makes people more angry because then you have like the director or whatever come out and be like, I've heard Chris Pratt's voice and it's unlike anything we've ever heard, but it's amazing. And it's like, stop just putting quotes out there like this Chris Pratt positivity campaign. I do want to address like the reasons why Chris Pratt is kind of sullied in favor. It's kind of weird stuff. So the main thing is because of his kind of religious background and the way he's kind of shared his religious faith, which then leads a lot of people to believe things about his political views and particularly things, regarding like same-sex marriage and his feelings on that. He is a part of a church that like specifically would have those type of views, being against same-sex marriage. But then again, like, he's also come out and like said like, oh, I don't even go to that church. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, we don't know like what, it's just kind of a weird, people get mad about stuff. And I'm not even a terribly religious person. And then the other thing is a weird thing with his ex-wife and their child. And, you know, he was married to Anna Faris, and then now he's married to Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter. Him and Anna Faris have a child together who I believe has some sort of intellectual disability. And he always is posting about his other kids that he has with Schwarzenegger's daughter, but not really this other kid, which is pretty gross to a certain extent. But again, I don't know what the situation is. I can't, fully speak to what kind of relationship he is allowed to have or isn't, but on the outside, it definitely looks ugly.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. And I mean, the more you delve into a person, probably the uglier things you're going to find. You're just being like in that, spotlight of Hollywood, like stuff's going to come out, even with the James Gunn stuff. Like, people are just looking for your downfall. So maybe it is played up a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I feel like just random stories come up like every year, just like Chris Pratt being in like some shady stuff. So I don't really know. Maybe it's all talk, but
the big thing that really people got mad about is that he like made this post so he already had this son who was developmentally disabled, and he posted about so happy to have a healthy daughter born, and like people were like, oh, that's so gross. Like, you're saying, it's like, what's wrong with your kid who wasn't maybe as healthy? It's like,
he could have just been saying in general though. But I mean, in the context,
like, it is good to have a healthy daughter, but
you're mad at him for being happy he has a healthy daughter.
Specifically, it was a birthday post for his wife, his new wife, and he said, she's given me an amazing life, a gorgeous, healthy daughter. Like, she chews so loudly. Where it's like, oh, my ex-wife couldn't give me a healthy daughter.
Yeah. It's like you're subtweeting your own kids. Like, come on, dude.
Not great.
Ugly
families.
Yeah, that's my family.
Move on to weird movie details trivia.
Naked grandma. Naked, huh?
All right, Kody, I actually have a lot of trivia questions. I don't know about you, but
I have 3 myself.
I got like 5. All right.
You kick us off.
First one. Fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack album, Awesome Mix Volume 1, reached #1 on the US Billboard Top 200 chart. This is the first film soundtrack ever to do so without blank.
Without what? Oh, I have no idea.
First movie soundtrack to chart #1 without having any blank.
I don't even know what to think. What does it not have? I mean,
original music, Kody. It's all from the 80s. It's the first time a movie soundtrack
never
charted.
Happened before? Wow.
No, because there's always at least an original song on there if it makes the top #1.
Well, I mean, what about like there's like a theme? They don't include the score.
That's not the soundtrack. No,
not a big music guy. Yeah, fair enough. I would have never guessed that in a million years. That's pretty good trivia. That's weird that no other movie has ever had like a Dazed and Confused, I would think. But yeah, anyway.
Also nominated for the Grammy for Best Soundtrack.
Oh, I would fucking hope so. I mean, the soundtrack is ridiculous. Should we list out all the songs real quick?
Go ahead.
Cherry Bomb, Hooked on a Feeling, Blue Suede. What else we got? Jackson 5 at the end. A little Marvin Gaye at the end too. That's probably all I got off the top of my head. So anyways, my first trivia question for you. Okay, we'll start off with an easy one. How many appearances does Thanos have total in the MCU? And we're counting post-credit scenes.
Okay. So obviously in Game Infinity War, he's there. He's present. He's obviously also in this movie, and he appears in the post-credit scene of Avengers. So there's 4. Is he in an Ultron post-credit scene? I would have to imagine he is, because they're like constantly building to it. So I'm going to go 5 there. He's not in Doctor Strange. He's not in Thor. He's not in either of the. I'm just going to go 5 appearances.
I'm not going to lie. That's what I originally had, but I just saw another MCU movie is in, and it's Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. He's laying off to the side from when the Illuminati killed him. I think that's an appearance. So I'm gonna give him 6. But yeah, those were the main 5 I had. Obviously, Avengers 1 shows up at the end. Avengers 2, for some fucking reason, he shows up in the post-credit scene again. And yeah, Guardians, Avengers 3, Avengers 4. But yeah, you're close there, but no
He looks
cigar.
different every time.
He really does. In this iteration, I really like his armor. Just like a full, just cloaked out in gold. I think that's a pretty good look. Obviously, like he sheds that in Infinity War when he gets some stones, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, his face, I mean, just the color of his face compared to this and like Avengers 1, it looks like a completely different character.
Drastically different.
Yeah, so that is interesting. And Josh Brolin, I mean, this guy got paid a lot of money to do absolutely nothing for like 5 years. So props to him. But just
he finally had to do some work like at the end of it. But
then he had to carry a movie, to be fair. And he did that pretty well. So I guess it was worth the wait. But yeah, the first 3 appearances are like, all right, who's this purple guy and when's he gonna actually do anything?
In the MCU canon of releases, what number film is this?
What a stupid fucking question. All right.
Your options are 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay, let's try and do the math here quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna see if you can name them all.
Got Iron Man. Well, this isn't an exact order either. Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The Incredible Hulk counts. What did I say are those? So Thor 2 had a sequel. We established that's 6. The Avengers, 7. Didn't Age of Ultron come out before this? I don't think so. What other movies are there? I feel like Iron Man 3 came out before this too, actually. So maybe 8. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. Gordon's nodding his head, yes. I'm gonna go with just 8 because that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
So you're saying this is the 8th or this would be the
9th? This would be the 9th.
Oh, well, it's the 10th, so it doesn't matter. You missed Captain America the Winter Soldier.
That came out before this?
Yeah.
Damn.
Same year.
Same year. Okay. So I was pretty close then, actually.
Yeah, you were solid. In the order, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The Avengers, Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and then Guardians was number 2.
Yeah, so Iron Man 3 was right before too. Yeah, I mean that fits in. I mean, it's basically the one weird thing that they've strayed away off the bat in like, what is this, phase 2, phase 3?
Phase 2, yeah.
At the end of phase 2, basically. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a dope choice, honestly, of being like the first property. You would think like, oh, they'd go Black Panther or they'd go some more obvious character in the comics, but they said, fuck it, we're going in space. That's pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, not a bad question. I take it back, actually. My second question, which I feel like maybe you know this as well, and I might be stealing one of yours, but who plays the big blue alien in the prison who, they have to establish that Chris Pratt is our booty and Groot fucks him up? Tell me who plays that guy.
I was watching a video about this movie before this. It's Nathan Fillion.
Yes. My boy Philly, he's kind of been out of movies for a while too now, which kind of sucks. And when I was watching it again, at first thought, I was like, wait, is that Brendan Fraser in that suit? I was like, oh no, it's Nathan Fillion. I always get those mixed up. But yeah, I figured you're gonna get that one as well. It's pretty known cameo, I feel like.
Him and James Gunn, obviously he's the
armed
detachable guy in
that's true.
Suicide Squad.
Oh, it's like KDT or something
TDK,
like that.
I think.
TDK, there you go. Underwhelming in that flick, I would say, but he goes out, with a vengeance, with some blood. So we respect it.
All right, I'll pair these two questions together. So first one, in what year did this version of the Guardians of the Galaxy first appear? Specifically, it was Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Phyla-Vell, Gamora, Drax, and Adam Warlock. But what year did that pairing of people first appear in comics?
Adam Warlock on the original team, I like that.
So it's either 2008, 2004, 1998, and 1984. So this is not the original Guardians, but this is this iteration of the team.
Right. There's an original team where Yondu was on the team, and there's a lot of weird characters as well. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was 2000s. I'm going to go with 04 because why not?
It was 2008. So pretty recently. I mean, only you think just like 6 years after after they first appeared together. My next question was, who was the only person in this movie that was actually on the original team? Which the answer is, of course, Yondu. But can you tell me what year they debuted?
It's probably like the 60s or 70s. I guess 65.
1969, so pretty close.
Oh,
but that team had
Atomic Genius.
Not bad. 69 was a rough year for America and the nation as a whole. But so was 68. Bad times. The original team was Vance Astro, Martin X Tanaga, Captain Charlie 27, and Yandu Udanta.
Tell you what, I really wish we had Captain Charlie 27 instead of Star-Lord.
He's a buff guy. He's a fictional character. Character usually appears in the Earth 691 timeline as a member of the original 31st century incarnation of the team known as the Guardians of the Galaxy. He does appear in Volume 2, played by Ving Rhames. So there you go.
Ving Rhames?
Ving Rhames.
Mission Impossible guy? Oh, you know who that is.
Sure. Soldier and space militia pilot, genetically engineered to live in Jupiter's gravity.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, he's from Earth 619 as well. Do you know what Earth like normal canon is for the MCU and in the comics and stuff?
616.
Wow, this guy's genius. All right.
619 has a Captain Britain. So there you go.
That's actually dope. Shout out Captain Carter. Actually, I think everybody's Captain Britain. But anyways, my next question.
Yeah, his name's James Bond.
True. I want a James Bond MCU crossover, mostly for Ana de Armas, but anybody else as well. But yeah, my last question, I don't even know why. It's kind of just a good talking point. But right at the beginning, there's kind of a small throwaway line about Peter's dad. So what does Peter's mom call Peter's dad at the beginning of the movie? And we have some options. Is it an angel, a beauty, a dick, or the thing?
Shout out John Carpenter and Kurt Russell.
Shout out, Kurt.
Shout out. I gotta go an angel. I mean, she says he's bathed in pure light. I don't know. I think angel would be what I'd have to go with. I don't think it's dick. Although, when you think about it in context, she is dying from the tumor that he put in her head. So I would say it's a bit of a dick move.
Oh, not cool, sure. But yeah, you did get that right. The correct answer is angel, which is interesting. I mean, they kind of do set up, Ego in this movie to be a good guy, and he's most certainly not. So I guess the twist works. Yeah, that's kind of just an interesting line I thought at the beginning. Because again, I haven't seen it for a while, probably since Guardians too, honestly. And it's kind of just like, oh, like they really set this up from the original scene to be this thing, and it's kind of the exact opposite. But shout out Kurt Russell. Talking about villains like we were earlier, I wish we had a more established villain, like space villain for this franchise. I think if we continued using Kurt Russell, that would have been fun. But yeah, kill him off, I guess. But yeah, shout out Kurt nonetheless.
My last question for you here. The actress who plays his mother appears in another MCU movie. What movie is it? And it is one that's released prior to Guardians.
I think I've heard this before. Is it Captain America, the First Avenger?
Kody, you finally got one. Look at you go. Captain America, the First Avenger.
I think she's like one of the dancers or something, isn't she?
Yeah, she's essentially like one of the fangirls that comes up to him. I don't know. Look it up.
I think it's the girl who people were saying Captain America lost his virginity to, right? And no.
I don't know if that's in the movie.
That was one specific girl who he was like kissing, and then Peggy Carter shot him. Not her. You know what I'm talking about. But that could be somebody different. I'll double check.
We're going to take a quick commercial break to check into that, and we'll be right back.
Let's do it.
And we're back. And we didn't look it up because we don't care. She is in the movie. Her picture was on the screen. Kody was right. Welcome to the Academy.
There's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
Moonlight won. Come on, this is not a joke.
Obviously, like I said, it was nominated for Best Soundtrack at the Grammys. It was also nominated for Best VFX and Best Makeup and Hairstyling at the Oscars. It lost to Interstellar in the former and the Grand Budapest Hotel for the latter. Honestly, kind of deservedly so. In both of
you can't really argue either of those, I feel like. Interstellar definitely deserved to win. And the Grand Budapest Hotel looks awesome. So, yeah, I back those. I don't have too much for this category. My big one that I did want to debate a little bit. I said this has the award for the worst MCU sequel. I really dislike.
Thor?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. I think we take Thor out of the equation just because, like, that's obviously the worst MCU movie. But sequel wise, I think going from the first one to the second one, this one has the biggest drop off by far. We go from like a fun, Star Wars, just adventure to, you know, David Hasselhoff daddy issues in the second one. I don't know. It's not interesting. They're on that planet the entire fucking time, and the golden trick is also annoying. But yeah, I would say that is
Elizabeth Debicki?
Elizabeth Debicki.
Princess Diana?
I like Debicki, but I would say that is probably my least favorite MCU sequel, which is saying a lot.
A lot of people like that movie, Kody, and I haven't seen it very recently, so I don't want to say it's good.
You have seen it though.
I have seen it, but it's been a while. I just don't. I don't know. I've seen a lot of movies since then, and I don't know if I can confidently say. I feel like I liked it maybe more than this one.
Shambles. Well, fair enough. I disagree, but also I rewatched Iron Man 2 the other day. It's better than you think. Sam Rockwell needs to come back. The other guy, the bird guy, not too sure. Mickey Rourke, shout out you. Good acting, but that character's terrible. I need my bird. Where's my bird? You have my bird?
Why do I like Mickey Rourke? What's Mickey Rourke a shout out to me for?
What's wrong with, I didn't say shout out to you, did I?
Oh, shout out to Mickey Rourke. Got it.
Shout out to you and Mickey Rourke. Hey, Mickey Rourke, he's a good actor. Have you seen The Wrestler?
No. I think this movie should get the award for best talking animal character for obviously Rocket Raccoon. Chicken Little, is up there, but I guess they're all talking animals. Stuart Little, however,
not Stuart.
Who would win in a fight, Rocket or Stuart?
Oh, come on. Stuart, he has been fighting for his life. He fights birds on occasion, but I'm taking my boy Rocket. He's technologically advanced, so I'd say it's not going to be much comp.
I think you've sent me the tweet, or maybe I sent it to you. Jake sent it to me first, but who would win in a fight, Ratatouille or Stuart Little? And I think at the time I said, Stuart Little, he's a pampered little house bitch, right? He's got parents, he's got a loving family, he's got an older brother, he drives a car. And in Ratatouille, I mean, he's a rat, right? He's from the streets of Paris. But let me tell you, I just recently watched Ratatouille. He's also kind of a little bitch. So yeah, I don't know. I think Stuart could take him. He's like, oh, I gotta wash my. If you're a rat who has to wash your hands, and he's getting bullied by like his brother rat and all these other, and it's Sean Ast, like it's Rudy. I don't know.
Yeah, his dad, he really, I think, controls Remy in that movie. But to be fair, I mean, I think he's just washing his hands when he's preparing food for like 200 people for the night.
Yeah, who does that?
Maybe that's acceptable. But yeah, that is a good conversation, I think. They both, I think, have a sense of entitlement. Remy, he did come from harsher upbringings, I think, but he feels he deserves better for some reason, this disgusting rat. But anyways, yeah, I think Stuart Little may have the edge just because he has experience, but personally, I would take Remy just because it's a better movie, but that's just me.
I don't know if I agree with that, but
anyways, better than Stuart Little. Come on. Anyways, my second award, it's kind of similar to yours. I want to give the award for the best full CGI characters. So kind of similar to yours. I mean, the duo of Rocket and Groot, it's the best pairing in the movie. I think it's the standout characters easily. And to even think of, full CGI characters like 20 years removed from Jar Jar Binks, like being this popular and this accepted, I think it's pretty cool. So shout out to the animators. Obviously, they did get that nom. It's a tough year going up against Interstellar. I think Interstellar against any movie ever is probably going to win VFX. But yeah, I think it's really underrated, like how well just full CG characters are integrated in this movie, and you don't even think about it.
There's some stuff that I think doesn't hold up super well, but it's not Rocket and Groot. They look really good the entire time. Like, I think they're very effective in characters that need to have heart and soul and need to feel tactile in your movie. You have to get it right. George Lucas said if Jar Jar Binks didn't work, then the whole movie wasn't going to work with Phantom Menace. You know what? Jar Jar Binks didn't fucking work. So, and the movie didn't work. Those two things probably not mutually exclusive, but still.
It's also because they're doing trade meetings for like 3 hours, but that had something to do with it too.
I also want to give this movie the award for the worst way to teach children about abstract expressionist art. Just terrible. The Jackson Pollock joke again. Bad way to teach children about art. Art, it's all right. It's cool. Check it out, kids. But maybe jokes about, I don't know, ejaculating all over the walls are not super effective, or maybe they're extremely effective. It's hard to say. And then the last award I do want to give it is coolest Marvel helmet. Obviously, there's a lot of great ones, but I think the Star-Lord helmet design is actually really great. Obviously, Iron Man is pretty iconic, and then you've got like Cap's weird cap thing face. Like yeah, it's not great. Thor's helmet is pretty sick, especially the newer one in Thor 4. But I don't know. I really like Star-Lord's helmet. And it's ripped straight from the comics, but it's sick.
Yeah, the design is really cool, and like the effect as well of it coming off his face, I think is really cool too. Best in the MCU, I think it's up there. I do like it a lot. Black Panther, I think it's a dope mask as well. Even like Bucky's from his Winter Soldier era.
His COVID mask.
Yeah, his COVID mask is dope. Captain Marvel's got a good one too. There's a lot of good masks, I think. Even Miss Marvel, I like hers. But yeah, it's definitely top 5 for me. So I back it. And then yeah, the Pollock thing, understandable. If you're gonna make an artist joke, I mean, at least make a Van Gogh reference.
Make it an artist people know.
Yeah, at least make it a funny one, not a super sexual one. But
the thing that in all seriousness about the joke, the thing that does not make sense about it is the whole idea is that Chris Pratt references only extend to what he knew about when he was on Earth, right? He was how old when he left?
Like 10 tops.
And he knew. I think he might have been younger than that. And he was like.
You know this from the show. I can't tell a little kid's age, dude.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying he was young and he was like, that was a cultural reference that like stuck with him. Because like obviously like Footloose makes sense. Like, oh yeah, he was a kid in the 80s, like it would have come out. But like, was Jackson Pollock like really popping off like that, where this 10-year-old that can make references to his jerking off to it?
Yeah, I feel like he makes a lot of references that maybe don't add up. Even like the Ranger Rick one, like that. I guess that's more a kid's thing, but like. You wouldn't know that shit after 20 years. Like, come on, dude. But they hit on that in the holiday special as well, where it's like, oh, this guy doesn't remember much about Earth. Like, it's changed a lot. So yeah, it's kind of just like playing on that, and whatever reference they think of, they're just gonna randomly throw in. So
all right, let's move on to Invite, Fight, and Night.
I dubbed thee Sir William.
Kody, who do you want to invite on the pod?
Yeah, this was a tough one. I think there's a lot of interesting characters. I think the most interesting one and probably the most entertaining as well is Rocket Raccoon. I'm going with the obvious choice here. Mostly I just want to know his backstory, which I think we are going to get. But I feel like his life would be very interesting. I don't think he has the longest lifespan. So I think he's fairly, young, at least for his species or whatever. But I think he's been through some shit. And he's also really, really funny. So I think he'd be a great guest on the pod.
I'd love to hear Rocket review some movies. So that was my pick as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd bring in a perspective that we've never quite had. So it'd be great to have Rocket. And, we can have him. He can bring Groot too. He can interject some thoughts throughout if he needs to, if he feels impassioned.
Chime in anytime he wants. You got to feel I know what he's going to say, but,
who do you want to fight? For me, it's Howard the Duck.
Really?
He owes me some money. We kind of have a thing that's going to my back. He thought because he was with the collector, he could just ditch me, but he's out now. He's running. So I'm going to kick his ass.
He owes you some time at least.
Yeah, a little bit.
At least 20 minutes.
That 10 minutes that I had to wait for the credits to roll to see that bullshit.
So my fight, really weird one. Again, I think this is my favorite category on the show. But I'm going to fight the eyebrow guy who wouldn't sell off the orb just because Ronan's name was involved. I'll tell you what, man, you got pretty decent eyebrows, but if you're running this kind of business, it's not going to go well for you. So
you're talking about Will Poulter, Adam Warlock, eyebrow guy?
Oh no, not that eyebrow guy. He's in the third one, Corbin. But no, this eyebrow guy, it's the one who sells Yondu. His
I know who you're talking about.
No, I know. But, this guy's just the scum of the earth, classic Xandarian. I cannot kind of understand where Ronan's coming from at points, but yeah, this guy's asking for a whooping. So I'll take the bait and go after him.
This character's name is the Broker.
Yeah, great name.
He's played by Christopher Fairbank.
Nope, Christopher Eccleston. I know who that is. This is the villain in Thor 2.
He's also Doctor Who.
Oh, true. There we go.
So there you go. It all connects.
Kevin Bacon.
Christopher Fairbank also in Auf Wiedersehen, Orthodox, Black Plague, All My Friends Hate Me. So really nothing much, to be honest. Those eyebrows are not very popular, I guess. For me personally, there's a couple people you could knight. Obviously, Groot, he's kind of the hero at the end of the day. He cocoons himself and sacrifices himself, whether he knows he's going to be reincarnated or not. I don't know. But he does make the ultimate sacrifice to save the day. So he's very deserving of knighthood, at least posthumously. And then Gamora as well. Really, without her, all of the successes in Infinity War maybe wouldn't happen to a certain degree. Maybe they would be worse, or maybe they would be better, I guess, if she wasn't being able to be sacrificed to the Reality Stone. But regardless, she turns her back on her pseudo father, the man who raised her for many years and has kind of been influencing her for a really long time. And it obviously gets a lot more play throughout the franchise later, and we kind of get to delve deeper into that backstory, and we don't see a ton of it here. But I think that is a really interesting character, and I think it's a cool move to kind of see her, actually care about people and not, just go along with the plans of Thanos.
Definitely. And yeah, we haven't talked that much about Gamora, but no, her arc is one of the most important in the movie by far. So I back it. And I do agree with you. Groot, I do have 2 picks for this, but he was definitely my first. I mean, like I said before, just his cuteness, I think, along with just the murderous, nature of him. It's just a killer combo, something you can't really beat. And yeah, like he gives little kids flowers. He's got lights coming out of him, cool visually. And yeah, like you said, he even sacrifices himself. So nothing more the tree man deserves, I think, than being knighted. Like another just really random character that I do want to knight. You're gonna have to bear me with there, but it's the guy in the prison when they're up in the thing and he's yelling, "Number 1, fire! Number 2, fire! On my command!" But he's just screaming, he's spitting, like he's yelling so loud. This actor is unbelievably committed to this 2 seconds in the movie. I love it. I could listen to that all day. Yeah.
Not a very effective method, kind of shooting one by one, maybe, I don't know, shoot all at once.
Oh, that would make sense. But, they didn't want to do that because then it would have all, messed up their plan. But this guy, he tried his best. Maybe he didn't, figure out the best plan of attack beforehand, but he gave in the passion, which is what I'm looking for. So I want to knight this guy immediately just for the passion.
Fair. All right, let's move on to the recast.
Bond. James Bond.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond.
I'll get us started with maybe my more serious one of the two, but obviously I said this opening scene is very reminiscent of Indiana Jones. Star-Lord is kind of like an Indiana Jones, Han Solo-esque figure to a certain extent. So Harrison Ford, I could have seen him playing Star-Lord in the 80s. He's not as funny and maybe he wouldn't be as into it or as, he's a little bit more self-serious and it's definitely a different character, but I think maybe it's a character I like a little bit more as Star-Lord. But the obvious thing is if Harrison Ford's a good comp, let's take Alden Ehrenreich and say, hey, Disney, don't make Solo a Star Wars movie and don't give us this fake Harrison Ford. Just throw Alden Ehrenreich into the role of Star-Lord so we don't have to have Chris Pratt stuck in the MCU for the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's actually a good shout, I think. I mean, that kid's not doing any work really other than, White Boy Oppenheimer movie, I think. Yeah, I feel like he kind of fits perfectly. Obviously, maybe he's a little young, but that definitely would have been like a good niche for him in the MCU. So I back it. Harrison Ford, I don't know about that one. How young Harry are we talking?
I'm talking like in the 80s, or 70s.
Fair enough, I guess. I mean, yeah, you're probably right. It would be a different character. Just it wouldn't be as comedic, but I mean, it couldn't be much worse than Chris Pratt. So I backed it enough. My first recast as well is replacing Chris Pratt.
How are you going to put Dave Bautista in this movie, Cody?
Oh, you'll find out with my second pick, and it's a doozy. But yeah, Chris Pratt, he needs to go, obviously. And I was thinking comedic wise, it's tough to find like guys who have done comedy and action, I think. And first thought, John Krasinski. I think I used him last episode as well. But I think this is actually a good role for him because he's shown he can do the comedy. Sure, he's maybe Mr. Fantastic now, whatever. I don't give
So
a
you're
shit.
just picking a different NBC sitcom actor.
Yeah, exactly. But you're choosing the superior sitcom actor. And I think he would add more. He's worked in an office with a team. He knows how to deal with idiots. He had Dwight. Now he's got, Groot and Drax. So he understands those dynamics as well. Yeah, I kind of just wish John Krasinski was a bigger star in the MCU. So I'm gonna throw him in.
Should have just had Aziz Ansari do it. I mean, he got canceled too, just like Chris Pratt. So it would have been just as fitting.
I would have liked seeing that. If Aziz Ansari got like buffed out for this role, that would have been sick. But yeah. But anyways, if we want to move smoothly on to my second one, this is really dumb. I don't know if it's funny or not, but we're gonna go with it. So obviously the big bad that I didn't like about this movie, the villain. Lee Pace, forgettable. He looks the role. I don't know how well it's acted. I want to make Dave Bautista the main antagonist of this story. He can do a dual role as well. I want to throw that wrinkle in. So he's playing Drax, and then he's also going to play Thrax. So they're brothers. And I think that would really just add an extra tail on the movie where it's like, okay, it all wraps together at the end a lot better. Just because then you could have like Drax take out his brother and that add that emotion to it at the end. Plus, I mean, it gives the best actor in the movie just a lot more fun. Dave Bautista can really, go both sides of the coin. He has this Drax character. Obviously, he's just kind of this, idiot, but probably has good intentions. And then Thrax would just be this madman who wants to take everybody out. So I think just acting chops wise, he deserves, better roles. So I wanted to throw that out there.
Proud of you for getting that in, Kody. Dave Bautista, he's all right.
Who's your second one?
Maybe not a terribly original idea because Stephen Colbert already did this bit on his show, the late show with Stephen Colbert. But let's get Morgan Freeman to be Groot because he's got the best voice and fuck Vin Diesel. And I am Groot. No.
I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
Morgan Freeman, who could do it better? No one.
I feel like if you're gonna go Morgan Freeman, you might as well just go with James Earl Jones. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're both just so old. It's kind of tough.
Morgan Freeman's not above it. He's not above making a buck.
Right, needs work. I mean, Now You See Me 4 isn't out yet, so he hasn't made a movie in 10 years. But yeah, I wouldn't hate it. It'd probably be good.
Let's move on to our rating.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong?
Do it.
Coming fresh off our re-ranking, curious to see how our perspectives may have changed in the process of this. Mine hasn't. I'm going to continue with the same system. And I'm going to give this a 57 out of 69. It's about a 4.5 star more movie for me. I do really like it. It's on the bottom tier of like where I sit, like 4.5 stars. But to me, this is very clearly a movie made by someone who cares about the material, which I think is missing in a lot of MCU works. I think that's something that the Russos are actually kind of successful at, despite maybe not being the greatest film directors. They did have an appreciation for the comics and kind of an understanding on top of like how to make a blockbuster movie. James Gunn knows how to adapt faithfully. He's done it countless times, most recently with the Suicide Squad movie, kind of pulling these, interesting different characters, but he did the same thing with Guardians and even going back to writing the script for Scooby-Doo. Those are pretty faithful adaptations of what the Scooby-Doo characters are in essence, both in casting and in the writing that he provided. There's just a lot of cool stuff in this movie. The soundtrack is fantastic, as we talk about. Maybe some stuff doesn't, CGI wise hasn't aged super well. But I don't know. I think it's a really strong entrant for what it was tasked with doing, kind of giving us all this information about the future of the Infinity Saga on the backs of characters nobody knew or cared about. I don't know, pretty successful and, probably my favorite of James Gunn films.
Nice. I couldn't agree with you more there. Yeah, that was a great little snippet. Save that one for TikTok. But yeah, the Scooby-Doo, maybe you're off on that. I think they messed up Scrappy's, role in that. Shout out Scrappy, deserves better.
Villainous Scrappy, you're not a fan of?
Not really. No, Scrap's a good guy. Come on. But yeah, I it's tough, but I would say I do prefer this movie over the Suicide Squad. They are very different. Just top to bottom, I think this has some of the most heart, some of the best action, some of the best characters. and it's got that cool sci-fi vibe to it. So I'm gonna fuck with it. But yeah, your rating 57 is actually pretty high from you. So I'm pretty surprised. I'm gonna go with a 63 out of 69. I would consider it a 5-star movie. It's probably in the lower tier of my 5-star movies, but still ridiculously good. Like I said, I could talk about this movie all day, and I've probably been rambling on too long, so I'm gonna stop. But yeah, check this out. Check out the Suicide Squad as well, just to catch up on James Gunn before DC goes crazy. But yeah, those are two comic book classics in my book.
If we did that, it would drop this movie in as our 15th highest. So there you go. Not terrible. All right, let's move on to Defeat the Watchlist.
Watch me.
So it's obviously been a couple episodes since we've had this category, but I was tasked with watching the Royal Tenenbaums. Last time, obviously, Kody, recently, you've been on a bit of a Wes Anderson kick. Notably, I'm a bit of a Wes Anderson denier, or at least not a fan of his. I do like Fantastic Mr. Fox pretty well, and I haven't seen a ton of his films, so this was kind of, an interest, especially into some of his early work. I wasn't vibing with it for the first half at all, really, to be honest. It definitely began to grow on me a little bit more. I think the cast is obviously very fun. That's something that he's always super successful with. Ben Stiller, Luke and Owen Wilson, Gwyneth Paltrow, I think is really great. Danny Glover's a fun character. Obviously, Gene Hackman, who I haven't seen in a ton of stuff other than this. And yeah, just all in all, it's fun. Bill Murray, classic. I really enjoyed the scene where it was Ben Stiller's sons and his grandfather, or their grandfather, Ben Stiller's dad, where they're kind of just like going around goofing off. They're throwing stuff at the car and stealing stuff. That's a really fun scene. The music throughout is incredibly good. Wes Anderson knows how to compose a frame, provide a backing track, and make actors do movement that fits it. He's really good at that, both emotionally and with the blocking itself. He has a rhythm to his storytelling, a rhythm to every character movement and blocking. It's very rehearsed and specific. If you go to the French Dispatch, you can literally play a metronome throughout, and every single motion, camera movement is on beat. And I would say it's very similar for this film. It's very rhythmic and flows in an interesting way. He always has very interesting characters. Writers pop up throughout his work. He has a love and appreciation for writers. He's a writer himself, but authors and newspaper writers and in all forms of that world is something that he clearly enjoys. I don't know. 3.5 stars is what I put it as.
Okay.
I don't like how Owen Wilson murders a puppy at the end of it, but I guess he's just practicing for Marley and Me.
That's a good point. But yeah, I think I do like it a little bit more than you. I mean, Wes Anderson I think he is the most artistic director of our period. So he's got to respect the hell out of that. Yeah, like you said, I think Gene Hackman and his relationship with the kids is awesome. They like hop on the fire truck and stuff. Love that. And then I think the standout we didn't mention is Luke Wilson. I think this is his movie basically. And his relationship with Gwyneth Paltrow is obviously pretty weird, but I think dramatic wise, that's by far the best I've ever seen from Luke Wilson. So shout out to him as well. But yeah, have you seen Grand Budapest Hotel?
I have. I've seen 4 of his movies. I've seen The French Dispatch, Grand Budapest Hotel, The Royal Tenenbaums, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Budapest is my second favorite. Fantastic is my favorite. I've begun to watch the Darjeeling Unlimited, I believe it's called. Again, just wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know. You kind of have to assign this movie if you want me to watch them, to be honest. Like you did with this. I did finish it right before we recorded this.
Yeah, that one's not his best. I don't think it's pretty long, I feel like. And
it's like an hour and a half, but yeah.
Is it? It feels longer if you watch it. I would probably agree with you on that. Adrian Brody, I think, when he's in like a primary role for Wes Anderson, I usually just skip it. No offense to the Broad, man.
He's a hell of a supporting actor, but I do agree with you.
Great in his one episode of Succession, actually. But yeah.
Very true. Very true. As we're entering, it is December. We're beginning the end of the year. A lot of end of the year lists will be happening. So I thought it would be a good idea before we do our best of episode, maybe I assign you a couple things that I think you might have missed to watch. So you think you agree with that? That I can give you maybe, what am I going to say, 3 movies that you have to watch by that episode?
Sure. I say I just join the watch list vibe, dude. You just give me a movie.
Start doing that. All right. I'm down. And if
I've actually caught up, originally, the watch list was I needed to watch Nope, and
you did see it,
so I'm back in the ring because I finally saw it. But yeah, no, I'm definitely down for that. I'm sure you have some ideas as well. For you, have you seen the movie Children of Men, Corbin?
I have not. No.
Oh, can I just pick because that's an Adrian Brody flick. That's why I'm thinking of it. Yeah, is that on your list?
Yeah, it is. And notably Luke Manning. This is like one of his favorite films. Former guest.
I say you watch that one because that's a classic.
I will check it out. Is Adrian Brody in that movie, Kody?
I think so. Who's the main guy? It's
not Adrian Brody.
Who is it? What's his name?
Clive Owen.
Oh yeah, some British guy.
Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, Chiwetel Ejiofor, our favorite. Charlie Hunnam.
He should have been the voice of Groot.
That's true. Michael Caine. Yeah. So I'll be watching Children of Men, and let me pick a 2022 release for you to watch.
All right.
Kody, have you seen Did you see Black Adam? You did, didn't you?
I haven't seen Black Panther still.
Yeah, but why don't you go see Black Panther?
Oh, I will. But...
All right, Kody. Why don't you watch The Banshees of Inisherin?
Ooh, I like that a lot. All right, I'll definitely do that.
If you can. I think it's only in theaters, so you're gonna have to go see it.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be empty. That's my favorite kind of theater, baby. The trailer looked good, so I do want to see it.
All right, so I'll be checking out Children of Men, and you'll be watching Banshees of Inisherin, which is one of my favorites this year. So it'll be important for you to see for us to have the conversation at the end.
Hell yeah. High expectations. That's always good.
Moving on to We Have a Podgorithm. Season 4.
Yeah, and quick shout out as well. We got the mic back. Shout out my boy Ian Cotter. We figured out the dongle. So with the mic back officially, I think we're officially bringing back season 4. Because it's just so much cleaner with the mic. But yeah, what movie we got?
You sound great, Kody. I much better than last week. Parasite.
Oh, this is actually a really good one, I think, for us. Do you want to start? Or do you want me to?
Why don't you take it away?
All right, so Parasite. I mean, this is a very, very recent release. Best Picture winner, heralded as, all-time classic by some. I think it's good. I think the performances are really, really good. I think the script's fun, but I think the script's overrated. It's definitely not what you expect going in. I think it's a little bit long, but the symbolism and just everything to do with, society and culture in general is spot on. I mean, from a writing standpoint, talking about societal issues, I think that's about as good as it gets. Bong Joon-ho, I think I said his name wrong, whatever. But I do like the guy a lot. I don't mean disrespect him. I'm just an idiot. Snowpiercer is one of my personal favorites. You haven't seen that. I think that's superior to this film, which probably everyone would disagree with. But yeah, I'd say it's good, but overrated.
I think it is deserving of the praise and admiration it's gotten.
Definitely I think it deserves Best Picture, but I think it's overrated. But yeah,
fair. Definitely should have won Best Picture. If you're interested in learning more about Bong Joon-ho, there is actually a book that just recently came out from a woman named Karen Han, Bong Joon-ho Dissident Cinema, which is just a kind of a deep dive into all of his movies. We've actually seen a couple of his films together. Obviously watched Snowpiercer together for the first time, then kind of dove deep into the Willy Wonka sequel theories. I think it's been discussed many times on this podcast before, but love that. And we also watched The Host together, at least parts of The Host. I don't know if you did. Yeah, you didn't see all of it, but a little Hilltop 3015 throwback there. But Bong Joon-ho, Parasite, it's a great movie. Like you said, it has a ton of commentary on class struggle, and that's something that really sticks out to me and is important to me. And there's a movie about that it's unsurprising that I would appreciate the message that it has. Some really awesome visuals in that, underrated visuals, cool little stuff. The house specifically is really well designed and really interesting. So if you haven't seen Parasite, definitely check it out. Expand your worldview. Watch international cinema.
No, I definitely agree. Good film.
Let's talk Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special and recommendations.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Kody, I did see you checked out this movie. Personally, off the bat, I wasn't a huge fan of it. Particularly not a huge fan of Roblox Groot or Buff Groot, Vin Diesel Groot. Not really sure what's going on with that. I did notice he's also looking like that in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer that just recently came out. What were your thoughts on the Christmas special, Kody? Do you like the introducing Kevin Bacon of it all?
Yeah, I thought that was funny where they just put introducing for him at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, how long is it? Like 45 minutes. Nothing particularly really happens, if I'm being completely honest. I think the Kevin Bacon stuff is probably the best part of it. But I do kind of agree. I don't really like the look of Groot. He kind of reminds me of like a kangaroo, the way he looks. What was that movie called? Kangaroo Jack. Kind of looks like that guy a little bit. And also, I want the clip of the week to be this kangaroo video. I'm sure I've shown it to you before. It's one of my all-time favorites. But it's like kangaroo like boxing a guy after he stole his dog.
Yeah.
Seeing like Cosmo the dog and like Groot next to each other, it just reminded me of that video for some reason. So we gotta clip that.
But all is not as it seems. The big buck actually has hold of the dog, not the other way around. As Greg runs in, we realise this could get dangerous.
Let it go, dogs, let's go. Now the dog's coming.
Well, we're not sure what's going on here, but the Roo has the dog, not the other way around. Max calmly waits for his owner to come and help. The buckaroo sees the odds stacking against him and tries to gut the dog with his claws one last time. His powerful arms anchor the dog by the breastplate as Max doubles his efforts to escape. Finally, the Roo switches his attention to Tonks and sizes up the human to be his next victim. Tonks gives the kangaroo his space, but the cranky buck comes forward, ready to attack. To save himself, he launches a right hand to the kangaroo's snout.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was suitable for what it was. Like, it was a fun Christmas story, but I mean, it wasn't like Werewolf by Night, where I was like, oh shit, this is like a sick presentation. But it was still fun, I thought.
I think for like a kid's Christmas movie, I think it's great. Like, it does exactly that. Like, it's just a fun little watch. I'll never watch it again. Like, I'm not going to make it a tradition to check it out. And I agree with, like, nothing really happens. There's not a ton of plot besides just like this, like, Mantis and Drax go to Earth to get Kevin Bacon. But in reality, to me, like, I feel like the main point of this is to like fix the fact that they cut the scene where Mantis says she's Star-Lord's brother from Volume 2, and they didn't want to have to like explain it in depth in Volume 3. So like, oh, here's the Christmas special to like get this one plot point across. I don't know.
I completely agree. This seemed to be like Mantis's story almost, which I like. I mean, especially in TV, you can flesh out characters who you didn't really touch in the movies. You know, obviously like Hawkeye, that's a big thing, but I don't know. I feel like it really added a lot to her character that I didn't even know. Like, she can, you know, mind control people and do anything pretty much. She can jump around like a maggot. I don't even know what she was doing.
Like a mantis, maybe like a praying mantis.
Did praying mantis jump that high though?
I don't know.
And yeah, she's, you know, siblings with Star-Lord, which I think you're right is pretty much the entire point of it. You know, I don't know if it was necessarily necessary. It's good to see Palm. I forget what is it?
Palm Clementif.
Clementif? I can never remember that, but it's good to see her get more screen time, obviously, because I think she had a lot more fun in the role in this film, especially, and hopefully we continue to see that. Because I mean, I feel like in Guardians 2, she's kind of just blankly stating everything.
Yeah, she's like a plot expedition device.
You don't get any personality from her, I think, in that. So it was good to see that, at least in this.
Yeah, overall, you know, some fun character moments. What did you think of the animated like Yondu scenes?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, where it's kind of just like, oh, thrown in retcon in animated form, where, oh, Yondu was he really did have a father-son relationship with Peter. I mean, literally, we just watched the first one today. Yondu was a half a second away from just slashing this guy's throat.
All he talks about is how much they wanted to eat him.
Yeah, and suddenly, you know, he's the best father growing up all of a sudden. So that's whatever, but I like the animated. I mean, that was kind of a cool intro where they did the Marvel logo and then it just pops into animation. You're like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, I thought it was interesting.
It's one of those things where it's like when you think about why they did it, though, it's like it's just like because they didn't, like, Michael Rooker probably didn't wasn't able to come film, and like,
well, no,
they
didn't want to put on the blue makeup.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's dead. He's done with this shit.
You don't want to be in costume for 5 hours and do 2 scenes. He said, hell no.
Yeah.
In a country accent.
Any other recommendations? Obviously, we recorded our last episode relatively recently, but anything else you've been into?
A couple small things. Still been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Been working my way through that. I think at one point in this show, I said that season 3 was good. I'm going to have to retcon that as well. The first 10 episodes of season 3 are fairly good. I'd say they're good. The back half, it's a different story. It's really, really bad. But anyways, don't check out that season. I'll keep you updated on season 5. Other than that, I did watch the Grogu animation thing, which you told me not to. Pointless. Terrible. I'd check it out. It's 2 minutes though. I'd recommend it. And then lastly, are you caught up on Survivor or still no?
Yeah, I did. What a fucking episode.
Oh yeah. So I mean, this is winner's edit episode right here. I mean, the episode before what's her face went home. She's my favorite character of the season, if I'm being completely honest. The girl with one leg, whatever her name is. Nope,
I don't know. I know who you're talking about. I don't know her name.
She's awesome. Legit, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, it's tough to make me cry, but a couple of her stuff is just like, damn, like that's inspiring as hell. Like, I respect that. So shout out to you. But yeah, this next episode, Jesse's got some game on him. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is
Noelle.
Noelle, that's what it is. Shout out Noelle. But yeah, this is a blatant Natalie Anderson, San Juan del Sur move. But the thing is, he has 2 idols, and he
has one now. He played it.
Well, right, but he had to, and he used 2 very effectively. I'm not gonna lie, I have come up with idol strategies in my head. Like if I was gonna play in the game, what I would try to do. And one of the main ones is if you have an idol, basically, you direct a vote to somebody, you know where the votes are going, and then you play an idol for them, and then you only tell you and that person, you vote for the biggest threat, basically. It's basically an easy way to get out a big threat. Basically, what he did with 2 idols, and it makes it even more effective, he knew the vote, he knew where it was going, he played it correctly, and then he took out his biggest...
He flushed out the idol, yeah.
Yeah, he flushed out as well the other one, which is fucking genius. But he took out his biggest ally, that's who they were going to compare their games to at the end. So that's a necessary move. And he had an idol. So that's a hell of a snipe out of nowhere. And then as well, he makes himself a massive target for Final 5, but nobody knows he has a second idol. So he's getting all the votes.
He can literally pick who goes next.
It's wild. But I wouldn't be surprised to see if he loses to fire making. Just got the Survivor. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. It was a lot to take down, but I mean, Jesse has all the powers and all the resources, and he made a hell of a move. So you can all respect it. I hope he wins, but we'll see if he gets that far.
He didn't make the mistake that, a lot of people make where they're just out there to have fun. He said it. He said, I'm here to win $1 million and I'm going to be cutthroat and I'm going to make the play at the right time. And I really think if he doesn't get Kody out here, I don't know. It's tough. Yeah. Like they're probably going to the end together. I still think he's got a tough road here because like you said, at 4, he's probably gonna have fire. Like he's not winning immunity. That's the thing. Everybody else left has won an immunity challenge, at least one. And he has not won any. And I don't really know if he's gonna win any. So
True. The funny thing is it's probably going to come down. What's the idiot's name?
Gabler.
Gandalf, I was thinking. It's probably going to come down to Gandalf.
He's a heart valve surgeon, Kody. He's not an idiot, but
low-key, he's kind of smart, but nobody respects his game. He'll probably get 1 or 2 votes in the end. But, I mean, it's probably going to be him, Cass, and then Jesse or Carla. I would assume whoever... Well, I don't know. Carla should be out next vote, so who knows. But her edit says otherwise. But, yeah, it'll probably be who's Gabler going to take? And then he's going to be like, I'm going to take Jesse, because... Yeah, everybody hates him. He voted everybody out like an idiot or something. But fucking Gabler, that guy, I can't believe he's lasted this long in the season. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Gabler and Owen both end up as the 2 guys that get taken to the end, and it's gonna be Cassidy, Jesse, and Carla fighting it out between 3 of them because the other 2 don't have any chance of winning, so they're the perfect people to be there at the end.
I think Cass is a decent player. She doesn't have a resume.
Lots of immunity wins, but yeah.
Owen has not been on the right side of any votes. So it'd be very, very tempting to take him. But he has a good story. Him against Carla, I think would be a decent final tribal. Just because he's so likable and he has been turning it around at the end at least. So it'll be interesting. I think he could be a finalist as well and get a couple of votes.
Finale this week, so excited to see what happens.
Anywho, yeah, that's my Rex. You been anything?
Obviously, I've only really watched one movie besides the three we've talked about already, Tenenbaum's Holiday Special and Guardians. But I did go see The Whale on Saturday, and it is Brendan Fraser. Everything we've heard about it is accurate. Brendan Fraser is incredible. I was blessed to get to hear Darren Aronofsky, the director of the movie, talk for a little bit after, which was really cool. He's very praised. He has a lot of praise for Fraser's work, rightfully so. And I really enjoy the movie Requiem for a Dream, which is an early film from Aronofsky, and that movie deals heavily with addiction. This movie deals with addiction in a different sort of way, with food addiction. By no means is it a perfect movie, or does it handle it's an extremely tough subject matter to deal with, right? And I don't know if you can do it in a perfect, successful way. I think this is done with a lot of care and a lot of emotion, a lot of heart, but maybe it's not always successful in what it's trying to accomplish. I will say, similar to Requiem, in a different vein, but the man knows how to end at a peak, right? Like, his movies go up and they just finish on the highest note. And in this movie is just like that. So definitely go check it out and book it in. Fraser's winning the Oscar. Nobody else really, I think, even has a chance. Maybe Bill Nye will definitely maybe be his second competitor, but I don't know.
Good to know. And that's really cool. Q&A. Well, and I believe Aronofsky, I think he directed The Wrestler, didn't he? We were just talking about. I feel like all his movies kind of take on maybe not the most comfortable subjects, or really take it to the extreme.
For sure. It was definitely cool. I guess the last thing I want to hit on is the Golden Globes nominations were released today. It kind of, I guess, saying that back-to-back in sentences with Brendan Fraser is a little bit unfortunate. Obviously, the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press is the man who, sexually assaulted and took advantage and kind of caused a lot of his blacklisting. So it is very important to recognize that the Hollywood Foreign Press is a historically corrupt organization, very undiverse, hasn't nominated a lot of diverse movies, has potentially taken bribes and special gifts at press screenings to influence some of the votes. The ceremony didn't even happen last year, or at least not in a televised sense. And there's supposed to be changings and things that are kind of, moving in a more positive direction. So we can hope that in the future, the Golden Globes is more inclusive and more correct with the things they're nominating and appreciating in the world. Definitely curious to see. It's an early Oscar precursor. Did you have a chance to check out any of the noms?
I did check them out. My main question to you is, are you going to watch the Golden Globes? And is anyone going to watch the Golden Globes? Because, I feel like this award show is kind of just a shamble.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I am not going to watch them, probably. Like, I'm definitely going to pay attention and see what the results are. But I don't even... The thing is, like, the Golden Globes are an indicator of what's going to happen at the Oscars, but they are not the indicator of what's going to happen. And there's stuff that's nominated here that I don't think will get recognized. And there's stuff that kind of got left out that I would be surprised if it isn't more recognized. Just a couple of notes. I think the big one, Women Talking, I think only really pops up on here for a screenplay nod. I think that'll get a couple more nominations, although it was pushed to later in the year. So there's a potential it doesn't see a ton of love. I really like the Everything Everywhere All at Once noms: screenplay, best motion picture, comedy, and then acting nominations for Curtis, Ki-Hye Kwan, and of course Michelle Yeoh, which is really great. I don't know, should be interesting. Banshees getting a lot of love. Babylon getting some surprising love. The Fablemans, of course, is an obvious. The Tar.
Fablemans and Top Gun were nominated for Best Picture, I believe.
Yeah, so just to hit the best motion picture, they do split it into different categories. So for musical comedy, it's Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Glass Onion, and Triangle of Sadness. And then for the drama category, it's Avatar, Elvis, The Fablemans, Tar, Top Gun. That's 10 movies. Those 10 movies get nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it'll be those 10, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least 8 of these 10 get nominated.
Nom for Best Picture at the Oscars? I don't know. I think it's going to be really good, but I don't know if it will.
What movie?
Avatar 2.
Avatar 2, yeah. I don't know. The first one, was obviously nominated, so it's hard to say. Here's the big question, Kody. Notoriously, sequels at the Oscar are not extremely well recognized.
Right.
Top Gun Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, Glass Onion, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is another one that potentially could be looking in. There's 4 right there. I don't think there's any way all 4 of those get nominated.
I would say not Glass Onion. I'd say the other 3 do.
Hey, we still have over a month before we get noms, and then another 2 beyond that before the ceremony happens. So we'll continue to talk about it throughout. Thanks for listening, guys. It's been a fun one, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Appreciate you guys. Keep coming back. We're doing, like we said, a lot of Christmas stuff soon, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of Avatar. So definitely stay up to date with everything. It's going to be a good ass time.
Cody froze again. Peace. Stay capping. I don't know, man.
Right, I'm not
right at the end, dude, we were losing you.
I don't know what's going on. My Wi-Fi is all shit all of a sudden.
Hey, better that it happened at the end than in the middle, so it's all good.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.